Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Jentry Chau versus the Underworld, Season 1, Episode 12. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we're picking up with Jentry tracking down her mom. What was really surprising is her mom knowing who she was as well. I was like, whoa, did you, would assume all your memories were taken, so what's going on? Well, we find out what happened that night. She woke up, blood on her hands. She saw a dead body, a woman, a baby. She didn't know what was going on. She freaked out and ran. She only had a locker key, or I think a hotel room or a locker key, and she opened it and found a bag full of money, fake IDs, and a knife. And she's like, I don't know if I was a murderer or not, but I knew I wasn't a good person. So she was scared because she's like, I can't go to the police. Like, what do I do? Because you don't know what you're mixed up in. You don't know what you're responsible for. So she took off, and she just got as far away as she could. But, I mean, she didn't go that far. I mean, we have no idea how far. Well, the way she put it, she's like, I'm a few hours away. River Folk, because she moved to Dallas. So she didn't go to a different state. She's still in Texas. I mean, I guess that's the best place. Well, it's not. I was about to say, the best place to hide someone is right underneath your nose. Make it so that she's not that far away. But, I mean, to be fair, landing where she landed was that was Moonie's choice. So it's not like Chang or the Mogwai had anything to do with that. That was just her choice. Because I thought she was in prison the whole time. That's why I was like, oh, she's just living a life. I thought she was. I assumed the Mogwai had and Chang had imprisoned her somewhere. But it's like, no, she's just out and about living her life. And I was like, oh, that's just with no memories. Once again, Gugu looked for her, but it's also the thing of how, I mean, that ends up being a point of contention later on. It's like, well, how hard did you really try? I was missing for 15 years. You always knew the truth. You knew I was alive and out there. It's like, did you really? But it's like balancing, trying to get revenge on Chang, trying to get, Jentry to control her powers and she looked after Jentry, but it was always that asterisk beside it of you're trying to get something out of it. You want her to be able to master the Yellow Emperor's powers. So it's like, and that ends up, Gugu made a lot of mistakes, and she made some pretty massive mistakes. And that's kind of what led to a lot of stuff and continue happening. She didn't always handle the Jentry thing the best. She still did love her, but there was always, her love for her grand niece was never not grand niece, her great niece, great niece, yeah, was always genuine. But it doesn't take away the fact is that there was always something. There's always, once again, there will always be an asterisk just because it's there was also other elements to it, like your own selfishness and your own arrogance about the whole thing. But either way, it turns out she looked into because she could remember fragments of what she saw about Pang, about Jentry, and she painted all of that. And ultimately, she ended up looking into it. So about where she was from, and we see some interesting people. We see a lot of the ghosts that are in the house. We see newspaper articles about their obituaries. I was like, oh, that's interesting. So we saw the dude who's got his head cut off. Was it Lily and Vivi, the little girls? The guy who kind of seems like he could be a mobster. I think his name, nickname is Moz or something, because his last name's Mosley or something. So it's we see all those people. I was like, oh, that's so interesting. So you can't read the entire article, but you do read little tidbits about some of the characters. So I thought that was kind of a nice little touch, because we know nothing about those ghosts that live in that house. But she found out about her own death, and so she went to her own. She went to the cemetery in River Fork and. Saw Jentry there with Gugu, but that was the thing. That's what pissed her off, because she's like, whoa, she knows I'm alive, so why isn't she said anything? And we also get an answer that I've been wondering the entire time. I was like, there's got to be extenuating circumstances to why Jentry. Once again, I knew it wasn't on purpose, but I was like, because like I said, at the time, I initially thought she started the fire because she thought her parents were dead, but it's no, that happened when she was younger. She already kind of knew they weren't around anymore. So I'm so what incited that incident? And we find out it was Moonie. Moonie was keeping an eye on her, because she's your grandmother might not be Flora might not be the greatest person, but like there's got to be something to this. Like she wanted to make sure Gentry was being taken care of. I just wanted to kind of get to know her, and Gentry saw her and freaked out, and her power went off and like started to fire. And so it's just like, oh my God, I scared you away. But Moonie's like, no, it was me. It was my fault. I scared you first. And for her, she stayed away because she was like, luckily nothing. I mean, not nothing happened. A lot happened, but it's like, luckily no one died, but someone could have. So I didn't want to put you in that situation again. So she stayed away for the next 8 years. I mean, probably pretty soon after that is when Gugu ended up shuttling her off to Korea pretty soon afterwards. So she probably wouldn't have had an opportunity. It would mean confronting Gugu, and you just didn't want to cause more drama and issues. And obviously Gentry kind of puts that on herself, like, oh yeah, I'm kind of the root cause of all of that. But for her, it's like, right, we could, I don't want these memories to kind of be hoisted upon you, because she's like, you've built a life for yourself, and you don't have to kind of give that up. But it's like, if you did get your memories back, maybe we could make up for lost time. And she was kind of scared, like, yeah, it's kind of messed up for me to kind of throw this all on you at once. But for her, it's like, no, I want to get my memories back. She kept that photo, that picture that Gentry drew of them, because she was so young and didn't know what telemarketers actually do. So she drew her dad as a slime and her mom as like a scorpion or something like that. She kept that drawing ever since then. You're like, wow. And so for her, it's like, I've always felt like there was something missing about who I was. So she wants her memories back. And so she goes through the process, all the memories, good and bad, and it's a lot. It's so overwhelming. She was literally passed out for 2 days. But obviously her and Gugu are not in a good spot, understandably. You kind of felt like she was a little bit back to her old ways when she went in there. And I mean, she is a criminal. And she'd even said that too when she was like, when Gentry was like, yeah, you guys kind of did some illegal stuff. She's like, I knew it. I knew I was a criminal. I should also talk about this because I keep forgetting to talk about it every single time. Moonie is voiced by Lucy Liu. I've known that for a couple episodes, but I just always forget because I don't talk about the voice cast, like I said. Because like the people obviously, like I think I talked about, like, because I already knew Ali Wong voices Gentry. I know Bowen Yang voices Ed. Who is the other person? Oh, Pang is voiced by Jimmy O Yang. So, like, I think they're the only ones amongst the voice cast I'm aware of. Except for the left lion is apparently voiced by Songwoo. Is it Songwoo Cho? Is that Sungwoo's last name? I can't remember now. Yes, it is Sungwoo Cho, Pro ZD, which, because I saw the name, I was like, isn't that Pro ZD's real name? And it's like, yeah, I mean, I already know he's a voice actor, but I was just like, oh, that probably came up before and I just happened to notice it this time. But I think those are like the only people I'm familiar with, just like off rip, just name recognition alone. I probably, if I look deeper into some of the other names, I'd probably recognize some people. But either way, tangents and all that aside, the reason why I was bringing up her criminal past and stuff like that, because she, like, breaks into that little that area of Flores. I love she was able to get by the lines by scratching her, like, no, you can go in. And she's trying to look at stuff, and she's telling Flora, like, yo, if you want to, you could sell some of this stuff and you could have Gentry set up for life. It's like, it is kind of sad that that's where your mind immediately goes, but you're also like, well, is it really sad? It's like all this stuff could make it so that, your daughter could have had a great life. Everything could have been, it's that complicated thing of like, I don't know. It's interesting. But it's also like, right, they had the best of intentions for Gentry. It's like, right, we're going to do some bad stuff, but it's for her benefit. So it's, it's coming from a good place, even if it is a little maybe misguided. And once again, Gugu has taken care of her by, making sure she was always provided for. And it ends up being that back and forth about what Gugu's done. And it's like, once again, she has made a lot of mistakes. And she kind of throws it in Moonie's face too. Like, you made mistakes too. You guys were criminals. You were set. Like, don't act like you guys were innocent. She was like, yes, we made mistakes, but that was up to us to fix, and make up for those mistakes. But you took that opportunity away from us. You got Payne killed. You basically had Gentry grow up without her parents. And, Flora tried to say the whole thing of like, it's hard being a parent. She's like, you weren't even a parent. It's like, once again, it's like you were her aunt. So, I mean, we don't know what Gugu and Moonie's relationship was really like. I mean, we know, like, I don't even know if, I mean, maybe that's also why Moonie has beef with Flora, because maybe she knows. I mean, it never got thrown out in the argument, so maybe Moonie has no idea that Flora's the reason why her mom died. Because that could definitely be a thing of why she probably like might have beef with Flora, but it's like they also have like very different perspectives on it. Like, despite her misgivings and complicated things that she's done, Flora kind of believes in trying to do the right thing, and Moonie's just kind of like, right, this world is dangerous, I don't want my daughter part of it, like, you know, so it's like, let's get her as far away from this as possible so she can have a normal life. And that's the whole thing of like, you've never wanted Flora, you've never wanted Gentry dad do what she wanted. It was always what you wanted. And that's something she's had to come to terms with recently. It's not like, oh, she spent these past few years always doing what was best for Gentry. She tried, but once again, there was always a little ulterior motive to it. So Flora can't really fight too much back because she knows like what Moonie says is right. And once again, she's come to terms. And it's like, oh, Gentry's forgiven me. And Moonie's like, yes, but I haven't, like, for everything. I mean, this is still a fresh wound for her. It's like, I mean, for on top of all, like, for her, your betrayal and everything you did was just yesterday. It's like, for her, it's just like, my baby girl was just a baby yesterday, and now she's a teenager, and all that I've missed out on, my husband being dead, it's like, that wound was, and it was buried deep there, like, she knew there was something missing, and she could never get to it these past 15 years, and once again, I was a few hours away. Did you even really do that good of a job to look for me? So it's like, a lot of that resentment is understandable, and Moonie has every right to feel that way. And Gentry's kind of torn because, like, obviously, regardless of the mistakes she's made, like, she still believes, like, no, Gugu, like, Flora has done good. She has done right by me. And yes, she's made mistakes, but I have forgiven her. But she's torn between, like, well, my mom and my aunt, great aunt will never get along, you know? There's just too much history there. But, you know, she spends times with her mom, and you see Gugu feeling, like, left out. It's like, right, understandable. It's like, right, you were always... In her mind, too, is probably feeling like, oh, I was always a stand-in for the mom that wasn't here. You never had your parents, and it's like, it is on me that your parents are gone. I should have found your mom years ago. Like, that could have gone a long way to her. But once again, it doesn't mean she didn't try, but it's like, I mean, she tried looking for Moonie using magic and stuff, and there was nothing. But, I mean, who's to say Chang and the Mogwai didn't do something to make it impossible to track her down? Once again, making it so she's right underneath your nose, just never being the white. I mean, it's kind of like a... Have you ever seen this TV show Once Upon a Time? The spell/curse they were under for like 27 years next to people that they loved and care about, being none the wiser about what's really going on and who they really are to each other. It's kind of a similar thing, I think. So, well, I mean, it complicates things when... eventually, at one point, you have Moonie finding out to some extent and checking in, and things playing out the way they did with the fire. So, but either way, like I said, the time between Moonie and Gentry, they've got a lot to catch up on. I even love, like, you seeing her kind of doing some TikTok dances, Moonie and Gentry doing them together, and Ed's filming. So it's like, yeah, it's some good from the videos and TikToks and stuff. I also love that moment. I think it's really sweet, but also awkward when Gentry had let them know about her mom, because it's like, oh, my mom could fill in the void of B, because he was like, oh, because Wheeler was like, oh, could we get Gugu to be that extra chaperone? It's like, oh, and then Michael and Stella having to cover, be like, oh, she's sick, she's out of town. It's like, yeah, she's in Canada with malaria, and it's like, yeah, my mom could fill that void. And they're like, whoa, your mom's back? She's like, yeah, she is, a lot's going on, but yeah, she's back. And Michael grabs both of them, hugging him, and they're both kind of awkward about it, because it's like, well, here you are hugging your ex, you're also hugging the girl you have feelings for who has feelings for you, but that's kind of in a weird spot because that hasn't really had any advancements for the past month, so you're like, oh, that's weird. But then later on, Moonie and Gentry see him playing like kind of a Dance Dance Revolution type game, if not Dance Dance Revolution itself, with another girl, and it bothers them, and it's just kind of like they're in that in-between spot. I don't think Michael's moved on. I think he's still got his mindset on Gentry. I think he's just trying to give her time and space. And just to say, I don't think there's anything going on between him. I think the girl's name is Allison. Maybe. But I don't think like there's anything there, but it's still kind of like things are awkward, you know. And once again, I mean, him and Stella seem like they're in a good spot. Once again, being able to be mature enough to, yeah, things might be awkward, but for you to still be friends with your ex, I mean, hey, that more power to you. Once again, I've never had the best luck for that for various reasons, but it is what it is. But Moonie kind of makes it clear where she stands. She doesn't want to stay in Riverfolk anymore, so she wants to like, oh, we could go to Seoul. You talked about how great Seoul is, and she's like, oh, we could do this, we could do that. But she also doesn't want to leave Gugu behind because it's like, I mean, for one, it's like Gugu did raise me, despite the complications. She raised me and she looked after me, and I feel like I owe her. But Moonie's like, yes, if you want a relationship with your aunt, your great aunt, like I won't stop you, but I just can't stay here because every time I'm looking out the window, all I'm going to think about is Pang being dead, the time I lost. That's just too much. And and Jentry has her power, so she could always portal over here at any point in time. But the problem is like Jentry is once again torn because she wants to do right by her mom, but also wants to do right by herself. But she also feels like she owes Gugu. But it's like, yeah, Gugu might have saved your life, but don't feel indebted to her. Like you should do what you want to, and do it for you and not for her. So it's like, what do we? And ultimately, she's like, I will do it. And she ends up talking to Gugu about it later. And, because she's like, no, I'll try harder. I'll do better. But it's like, no, we need a fresh start. But she's like, no, you know what? She's like, you guys go ahead. Because they haven't really given a timetable, but it probably will happen pretty quickly. But it's still, of them going to Seoul. But it's like, I thought you enjoyed living here. She's like, I do. But it's like, there's just so much here for mom. And I just want time for us. And Gugu, once again, she can't fight it too much. It's like, do I want to be selfish again and try and get you to stay, considering everything? But it's like, I want you to be happy. You finally have your mom back, and so I have no right to kind of interfere in that. So at the same time, that's all going down. Moonie is kind of being haunted because the Mogwai shows up, and we heard last episode that he ended up getting he wanted Pang to be summoned, so he does, and now he's torturing Moonie. It's like, right, you made a deal with me to give me the Yellow Emperor's power, so you need to still hold that through. And if you do, I can have those powers. Chang, yeah, the Jilon thing didn't work out, but that's because I had to share the power of Chang. And like me, wholeheartedly having that power, I'll make things right. I get to choose who comes back and doesn't go through for the great beyond. It's like what happened with Pang won't happen with her. I mean, I think there's a little bit of a difference. He's in Diu versus like her just being in the great beyond. So there is a little bit of difference there, but it's still the situation of, he even says like, right, humans don't realize or kind of understand or forget what souls have to go through in the Diu. And like I said, we saw kind of the ugly side of like what that looks like, it's kind of it's supposed to be, it's like I said, spiritual jail, and you're supposed to get reformed, but it's kind of like it kind of puts you through the ringer, And so it's like, right, if you do not do what I ask you to, I'm going to torture him. You will not get everywhere you go, you will see him suffering. And that's going to be on you because you could have done something. Because if you don't do what I say, I'll make your entire family suffer. Because he even twists the knife because he's like, you're the one that convinced him. He didn't want to do the deal with me. You're the one that convinced him to make the deal with me. So, hey, you give me this power. You and your family get to be happy, honky-dory and everything like that. It's like, yeah, but he's going to kill you afterwards because Jentry can control that power, and the last thing he wants is someone out there in the world that could always, that power could always end up in someone else, sure, but it's like Jentry does have mastery to some extent of that power, so it's like the last thing you want is her out there in existence being a potential vessel. So it's like, yeah, you don't want that being a thing. So because it's like, yeah, I can bring down the entire force of the DU on you. He is at the time still disguised as Oxhead, so Moonie reluctantly makes the deal because it's like her hand was forced. Whereas before, like they willingly made that deal. This time it's like her hand was twisted. This wasn't even her trying to be selfish. It's like she's like, I can't do that. But it's like, if I don't, Pang is going to be forced to suffer. I'm going to be forced to watch it, and he's going to like bring hell upon me and my family. So like I have to do this. So once again, difference of I made the deal versus I was forced to make the deal. And in that moment, the Mogwai exits the Oxhead's body, killing him in the process. Not unless he's still alive, but yeah. So that complicates things because now there's no one to stop DU from coming. Like, he basically gave the order to come after Jentry and her family. So it was like, DU's going to still be coming after you. So the Mogwai still kind of gets what he wants in the end. And he ends up, of course, possessing Moonie. And now it's like, right, I'm one step closer to you. Ends up coming and attacking Gugu, and I guess like like those beings from the DU probably have weapons that could deal with ghosts, so it's like it's probably slowly killing her. And it's like, oh, you told her not to share her chi with me, but she did, and you were right not to. So it's like, yeah, I'm gonna get what I want. So it got the things it needs to pull the powers of the Yellow Emperor out of Jentry. So what's also interesting too, and I think this because it's something that didn't come up this episode. I brought up like Iris of like, oh, does Moonie know that Gugu accidentally killed your mom, her sister? But that never came up, especially because like Iris isn't here, and especially because every time she saw Jentry, she kept seeing Moonie, and Moonie's actually here. So I'd assume there's going to be something next episode revolving around that potentially with this season finale and everything. But like I had a feeling, and I was kind of worried, like when it's all said and done, will Gugu like fade away and just kind of go to the beyond or whatever? Like ghosts can only be around long enough to like fade away. And like I said, once it seems like you're going down that path, unless you go through the DU, but I don't think you can. Once you've chosen to become a ghost, you can only exist to fade away. That's kind of it. You're kind of stuck on that path once you've made that choice. If you made the choice to go to the DU or manage your way to the great beyond, that's one thing. But once you're a ghost, once again, not unless that's my misunderstanding, but my understanding is just like you're stuck that way. But we'll see. But maybe it'll have something to do with Iris, with the whole situation of her and Flora. Maybe they'll have a moment next episode. We'll see how this all plays out, because I think Iris might be the key to helping get the Mogwai out of Moonie, because like Gentry's not going to want to fight her mom. It's like she's in a tough spot. I'd also brought it up too because we are dealing with the DU. Like, well, we know Chang is there, so it could be a thing of him potentially popping up and maybe helping. I don't know. I mean, Gugu can always end up probably calling on Zonkway about this to some extent. I don't know. There's a lot of different directions this could all go, and obviously it's a very unfortunate situation because now not only is Gentry, but the entire school is locked in at the lock-in with the Mogwai inside of Moonie. So it's going to be interesting to see where the finale takes us with all of this, how this ultimately all ends up playing out, where some people's fates lie, specifically like Flora's. I mean, sad. Hopefully, it's not going to be a heartbreaking thing of Moonie dies. I hope that's not the case, but you never know how this could play out, because Moonie could probably end up dying or at least sacrificing herself just to make sure that the Mogwai dies this time. So we'll see. And I'm sure Gentry's going to blame herself a lot too, because it's like, my mom could have lived her life. I dragged her back into this. I'm the one that went to make the deal with the Mogwai, even though I was warned not to. My own selfishness led to, once again, that's the thematic theme of like people's selfishness. Even if you have altruistic reasons for it, there's still that ulterior motive that kind of affects so many other people. You try to get what you want. It's like, and not kind of always accounting for the consequences. So like I said, we'll have to wait to see how it all plays out. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.